We are live. Hello, everyone. Mike is coming from an undisclosed location in the province of Ontario.
It's in Toronto, and I have not been impaled by an icicle falling from the CN Tower or from the Rogers Center.
Good.
Not yet.
Good. I like that. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's some crazy.
Not yet. I'll be optimistic there, Russ. Not yet.
And then Peter's dealing with are you getting the storms there too?
We got nothing. It was gorgeous yesterday. I was outside grilling in sunshine during the game. It was awesome. It completely missed us, which is a rarity. But I think Calgary's getting like 20 centimeters today.
We've either had flooding or 60-degree sunny weather today. We've had both.
Yeah, we had the weekend. One day was 80, one day was 40. That was.
I had to run my car for 25 minutes yesterday with the defroster on to get a film of water underneath the 3/4 of an inch of ice to push the entire sheet off of my car.
Wow.
Nice. Oh my gosh. All right, well, let's get started with this, shall we? Because I got lots to get into here. All right, here we go. Marcus Johansson is skating on the second line with Zacha and Maroon. I love Devils playoff news coming in hot and heavy. Here we go. Ready? Hello, Hockey World. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, April 16th, 2018. 17. Oh my
18.
God.
It's 18.
Right.
The Iceman cometh. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Peter Tessier.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. The podcast comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we are now into our playoffs. We're fully into like 3 games. I always think that, to me, Game 4 is the game that matters the most, I think, in a series, because it's just, I've always said that you see more overtimes in Game 4s than you do anywhere else because it's so close and tightly contested.
See, a lot of people think it's Game 3. I'm more of a Game 3 person because, like, Game 1, sometimes it's like you take the Philly series, there's a blowout one way or the other. The next game is usually the leveling off and the other team, with their pride coming back. And then Game 3, you sort of see what you're really dealing with for the series. I think that's just me.
Yeah, no,
take
Go ahead.
Take a look at so far in the series that have gone on right now. I mean, now Minnesota wins yesterday. They're down 2-1. Tyler Myers is there's an injury there that we don't know the extent of. That series is competitive now again. Yeah. Whereas you look at Vegas and LA and you see Vegas winning again and it's 3-0. The Kings are toast.
I know.
And we were wrong.
Not me.
I was wrong. Totally wrong.
Although every game's been one goal, could this be?
I was really wrong on Columbus and Washington for them. I must say, I really thought that would be the series that I thought. I mean, Washington. I can't believe they've blown these leads. I think
you were wrong. You were wrong about Toronto.
Not yet. No, that series doesn't start tonight.
Heck, we could roll some tape back from the last 3 years where you've said, "I can't believe Washington's blown these leads." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what year it is.
Yeah, that's kind of true. But let's start with Toronto. We'll start there because you are there. Toronto and Boston. Let's get into that because this series, Boston obviously playing as well as anyone in the NHL comes in. Pasternak is just ridiculous, killing it right now, right? So
apparently he was taking.
Mike, you think this series is this series how you thought it would go, or?
No. I thought the Leafs would at least be. I thought it would be a fairly even series. I thought the Bruins would end up winning in 7 games. Right now, it's been total, complete domination by the Bruins. Frederik Andersen has a goals against average of over 6 and a save percentage of .822. Kadri, gets suspended for 3 games, and they could not play without him. Patrick Marleau could not handle playing center, and now. This morning, we find out that Mike Babcock's answer to put up the middle is to promote Thomas Plekanec to second-line center when he has been one of the worst forwards on the Leafs so far. He's been directly responsible for 2 goals. He believes that his experience and surrounding him with Marleau and Marner will make him better. And I talked to a couple of Bruins reporters and said that Plekanec gets underneath the skin of David Krejci, and that's probably going to be the matchup where they're going to match up the two Czech countrymen against each other. But I'll tell you right now, and I know a lot of Leaf fans are like this, I have no confidence in Thomas Plekanec right now. I think he's over the hill. I don't know how engaged he is. He's a professional, so I'm sure he is trying, but he doesn't look like he's trying.
He's sort of like the Olli Jokinen of the Leafs right now, and
there you go.
I think Plekanec is just going to drag down Marner and Marleau. I do. I think that's going to be a situation where they're going to get tanked on faceoffs, and he's still a pretty good skater, so I don't know if he'll kill the flow offensively, but I just think in those defensive battles where he comes up really soft, Boston's been winning those anyhow, no matter who's lined up there. Now with Plekanec, that's even a better matchup for them.
So here's my thinking on this the two parts with this, and I'll open it up for discussion here on the Leafs. But is Mike Babcock being outcoached, or is he outcoaching himself?
No, he's being outcoached.
Okay, and
I think it's a little. I think it's a little both, Peter. I think he's being outcoached because I think Cassidy has more pieces to use, but I think he's outcoaching himself because on the road he was constantly trying to line matchup to try to get somebody who could stop Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak, and they've scored 20 points. And Pasternak broke Wayne Gretzky's record for, I think, points in the first 2 games of a series. I think that was the record. So they have not been able to stop him whatsoever. And he tried to change the momentum by pulling Anderson after 3 goals in the first period on game 2, and that didn't work. It's nothing has worked, and it's not solely Babcock's fault. I wouldn't say that, but nobody has stepped up yet. Nobody.
So, okay, I think that's a good answer, Mike. I like that. So here's the other part to this question, and I asked this on during the game to a couple Leafs people who I know in my Twitter feed who were Jets and Leafs fans, and I said, I don't know, I don't have an opinion on this. I just ask it as an interesting question. Has the fact with Kadri getting suspended 3 games, has that made him potentially a piece Toronto wants rid of come the future?
No, he's showing his importance.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
but he's not important if he's not playing.
I think Russ is right. I think that his absence shows his value, and plus his contract, Peter, at $4.5 million, with all the money that they're going to be spending on Marner and Matthews and maybe Nylander. They need to keep Kadri because he's a viable second-line center at a reasonable rate. No, honestly, we'll see where the series goes, but I honestly believe, and I told Russ this yesterday, that what this does, if the Leafs go down in 4 or 5, I think you're going to see a genuine effort upon the Leafs to probably trade one of those young core players to get a number 1 or number 2 defenseman, probably somebody younger, because this exposed so far through 2 games, they have been utterly and completely exposed on the blue line. Ron Hainsey was on the ice for 3 goals, and the first 3 goals in game 1. Nikita Zaitsev was a turnstile in game 2, was on the ice for 4 goals. Jake Gardner gave away 2. I mean, everybody has played badly on the blue line, and they need to upgrade it. And the only way that you can upgrade that blue line is probably to trade a guy like Nylander to get a Noah Hannafin or a Jacob Trouba or somebody like that.
So that was sort of where I was going with this. Was some people are going to argue that if the Leafs go down in 4 or 5 games, it's Kadri. It's because the loss of Kadri. Right? There's going to be that argument made, and that he wasn't there. And if that's the kind of player he is, do we want that on the team? And my converse side was because his contract's valuable, because he drives play, he's valuable. There's 2 things in the league that you need, every team needs: a top pairing defenseman and a 1-2 center. Kadri's one of those. The Leafs don't have the other one, right? And given the situation, the stakes that arise out of this and how this has come about, I'm just curious if there's a level of sentiment that comes in the Leafs organization. And I know his contract's great. And I'm not saying Kadri doesn't have value. What I'm saying is, are they willing to cut ties with his value to get better value over here? And rather than dealing with and I know they've got better assets on the wing to deal from in terms of depth. It's just
I don't think
it's.
I don't think they have a viable option to replace him on the roster right now, and that's the problem. But I also think what this is so far, and we'll see what happens in the remainder of the series. What has been exposed here is that yes, you can have tons of skill, you can have an overabundance of skill, but you need sandpaper. You need players who can play a rough edge to the game. I mean, Winnipeg is extremely skilled, but they got big players like Bufflin who stick up for those players on the Jets, and the Leafs have nobody. I mean, right now Matt Martin is the only guy who probably, and Roman Polak are the only guys who could stick up for anybody on this roster, and that you're talking about basically a fourth line winger and a bottom pairing defenseman. They need somebody who can play with grit and determination in the top 6 or on the top 2 pairs, and they don't have that.
The last thing I would say about it is I saw like a troubling headline, and I've been sort of feeling this where somebody wrote, well, Austin Matthews needs to rise to greatness. And it's like, listen, this is bigger than Austin Matthews. For one thing, he's injured, and people seem to have forgotten he's injured. The other thing, he's 20 years old, and people seem to have forgotten he's 20 years old. You know, there's only so much leading you can do in those situations. You got to have other teammates pick you up. It's not all on Austin Matthews. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I look at this thing and I look at their time on ice, you know, that they're playing, and the fact that Hainsey's getting almost 20 minutes a game is just, you cannot do that.
Desperation, yeah.
That's been the entire year. He's been on the top pairing the entire. Oh, I know. I mean, I said at the beginning of the year. I said at the beginning of the year that Ron Hainsey was a 5'6", and they've been playing him on the top pairing with Morgan Riley, and even worse, they've been playing him every single second of penalty kills. So a 36-year-old guy who's playing 22, 23 minutes a night for an entire season is now expected to be a shutdown guy in the playoffs. I think he's spent. I think he's worn out.
But the other thing that sticks out, obviously, is Frederick Anderson. You know, that's the big thing. I mean, 6.67 goals against average. And you know, he's played 72 minutes. And McElhinney's played 42, and he's at 5.11. You know, so looking at, like, you know, 2 goalies over 5. So his save percentage is just over 800. I mean, like, Anderson's 822. I mean, the goaltending to me is the biggest thing, because that just especially with a young team, you need a goaltender that gives that team confidence.
Yeah, I agree with that, but the problem is that I don't think it's Freddie Anderson's fault. I think it's the team defense has been terrible, and also, you know, Boston's playing this up-tempo physical style, which we knew that they would. And one thing that they've done very effectively is they've neutralized Mitch Marner by hitting him every single chance they get. And if you can't stop them from doing that, then you're not going to win this series.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to Winnipeg and Minnesota, because that has been a fascinating series as well, Peter. And I think that, you know, it was amazing
Steve Mason's team now, Eck. That's what it is.
What was?
It's Steve Mason's team now.
Steve Mason's team. What cracks me up is that, you know, like, I mean, everybody was saying how the Wild were getting destroyed in the first 2 games. I didn't think the Wild were getting destroyed in the first 2 games. I mean, but people were really, like, you know, and I think a lot of it was not a lot of people realize how good the Jets are. The Jets are a very good team. You watch them in the playoffs for the first time, maybe for a lot of people really watching the media, really watching them for the first time. And yeah, the Jets are, you know, I think they might be the second best team in hockey. So you put them up there, and yeah, I mean, but, you know, Minnesota gets their, you know, comeuppance a little bit in game 3. And that's a little, to me, it looked like a little bit of inexperience on the Jets of not being able to continue that momentum maybe going.
Yeah, there is a whole host of things at play here last night. And first of all, you know, the travel is well documented. They left on Saturday, landed in Duluth, had to turn around, come back, spend the night in Winnipeg until Minnesota St. Paul opened up, and then they flew down on the morning of Sunday. So they had no game day action whatsoever. It was straight into the game. So the routine was off.
Yeah.
That's not okay. There's one small variable in this.
Yeah, right.
But what happened, I think that probably it was good and then it was really bad, was that weird goal that Blake Wheeler scored to open the scoring at 1-0. I think that gave them a false sense of security that, okay, Dubnyk's letting this in, and it was a terrible goal by Dubnyk. Like, he should not have let that in. But, okay, this is going to be easy. And then that's when desperation really hit the Wild. Like, all of a sudden, they realized, like, if we don't do something now, it is over. And the Jets didn't react. Now, Ben Sherratt took a couple very dumb penalties. The 5-on-3 was, that I think gave him the 2-1 lead. And then the Jets just never really decided what they were going to do. And at that point, when it got to 3-1, I thought there was an opportunity for Maurice to call a timeout and use it then and say, whatever, to expend it then, because he needed to settle them down a little bit. And they got caught up playing the wrong game. And credits to the Wild. The Wild got the Jets running around, worrying about hits and stuff, instead of playing the game that they have been playing. And then they just got confused. And that goes to inexperience, goes to a little bit of leadership in terms of someone's got to settle this down and deal with it. But it also goes to the fact that Boudreau made his adjustments and saw something, and he told everyone, we're coming out prepared. And he got into them. He got into his team's head what they had to do, and that was a great thing. And
you know what else, Peter? When Mike said, when Myers got hurt, when you have to start piling on minutes, and I don't have the numbers in front of me for Morrissey, it's a little too much for Morrissey too soon. Like, it's just, that's a problem too.
Yeah, the game was kind of. Go ahead.
Sorry, Peter. I was just going to ask, do we have any indicator of the severity of the injury? Because it didn't look good.
No, he walked down the tunnel, though. But there's no updates today. There's no updates on anyone. Like, Maurice didn't say a word to anyone about anything. So, that was a weird thing. When you see the review and you see the close-up, there's a weird sort of lunge by Foligno's arm. And there's a lot of people who think that was a dirty shot. I don't know if I can go there.
It was impossible to tell. It was.
I don't. You can argue that all you want. You'll never find the right answer. So it's best just to let it go, and that's just the way it is. The thing with Myers is that right now he's sort of playing high risk, high reward hockey, and so far it's been high reward. Yeah. But now with him out, it's going to change the way that bottom pairing works, because if he's out, Tucker Pullman's going to come in, and Pullman, when he's been given minutes, has done well, but he's been sheltered. And when the game speeds up, and Boudreau is going to throw his top line at Pullman every chance he gets, and it's going to be interesting to watch, because while Pullman has talent, when the speed amps up, he's not there yet. And that's a pretty obvious thing. So if he's in tomorrow, and I expect him to be, I don't think Myers is going to play, and that's probably the right call. But it'll be fascinating to watch how Boudreau uses that to adjust, because in the first two games they tried entering on the left side after Morrissey. So on the other two pairings that came in on the left side, last night they were coming in everywhere. And they found a much more success. So it'll be interesting to see if he keys in again on a side or a certain player, depending on the pairs in the back.
I mean, this is the best Zach Parise version we've seen in like 2-3 years, honestly.
Yeah.
This is very much reminds me of the Parise, that went with the Devils to the finals. I mean, that was that Parise.
Yeah.
I think he's finally healthy. Is what
I think that's a huge part of it. Sure. I agree with you completely. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting series. I think in a way, it kind of reminds you a little bit of the Flyers Penguins series, where you have each game is sort of its own entity, to itself. And we haven't really seen just an out, like in some series, like for example, Vegas, LA, you've seen every game be like a battle between two teams, where it feels like in some of the other series, you're having one team show up and the other team kind of not show up in different situations.
I think the Wild have shown up. I just don't. Their depth and the fact that they don't have Suter there are slowing things down for them. And last night they found a way to speed up what they were doing. But if you look at the even strength shots, the Jets slowly just climbed back into it. Now there were some score effects in that for sure. And the Wild were just letting it come in, take your long range shot and stuff, and that's fine. But the Jets got it to 3-2, and then Connor Hellebuck just, it happened, and it doesn't happen very often with him, and it happened.
Could this be the quickest first round in NHL history? Because look what we've got Vegas up 3-0. We've got Tampa Bay and Nashville up 2-0. You got Boston up 2-0. I mean, you could have Columbus up 2-0. It's like you've got. I mean, there are not many series that are. I mean, there's a few of them that are 2-1, obviously, but it just seems that the teams, and not even the teams that we thought were going to win, but whoever is winning in the series is winning by a great margin.
I don't think so. I think this is what we've seen so far, and things will change. And it wouldn't even shock me if LA wins a couple of games because maybe Quick all of a sudden shuts them down. Like, I just, I think, look, and Washington's going to be due to win a game or two. Like, I don't think there's going to be that many sweeps. So I don't think so.
Well, I mean, that game last night, the Columbus Washington game. Now they pull Grubauer. First of all, they start Grubauer again in game 2, which I was a little surprised at. And then they're down 4-3 going into the third period, and they pull Grubauer and put Holtby in, presumably to change the momentum. And Washington ties the game late in the third. Holtby was not good on that winning goal, on the Calvert goal. He gave up a juicy rebound right on Calvert's stick. But I don't think they can go away from him now. I think they have to stick with him.
They got it.
Yeah, but they still have a bad defensive lineup. Like, I harped on it the other day, and again, it came back and bit them. Like, even when they were down 4-3, Trotz looked nervous on the bench. Like, this is the first time I've seen him actually look out of sorts. And so I think the pressure's starting to get to Barry Trotz too. I do.
Yeah, and you're getting Bobrovsky's playing really well, and that's the thing that like he. My question about the series was which Russians would show up and which Russians wouldn't show up. And Bobrovsky has had his tendency to not show up in series, but he has shown up in this series. I really didn't blame Holtby for that game-winning goal. That was a really nice play by Calvert. I mean, it was a one-handed. I mean, it was a rebound for sure, but it was a one-handed shot.
It was almost inevitable, just in the sense that probably very few people on earth felt like the Capitals were going to come back and win that thing in overtime. Like, I don't know what it is. The mojo's wrong. Like, we just don't have any faith in them.
No, I agree.
And you can't really blame Ovechkin in this instance because he did score 2 goals.
No, he's doing what he can do. But you're just
where's Oshie? Where's the secondary scoring? Like, it's the same old story with them.
Yeah, it's really a defensive end. I agree with you, Peter. Oh, we lost you, Peter. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
I don't know why we lost your volume.
There's that better.
There you go. Yep.
Okay, something's happening with my mic. Anyways, I know why. Okay, the sequence of play before that goal though was absolutely crazy in front of Bobrovsky.
I know.
I think there's almost like a little shock.
Yeah.
Because they come back up the ice, a few things, boom, it's in the back of the net, and they're like, "What just happened?" Like
you mean like because that didn't end the game that they were in shock? Maybe.
Yeah, they had a wide open net.
Just a little stunned. Like, how did it was bonkers there for a bit. And in that sequence,
they need a sports psychiatrist or need to go on a trip to Chuck E. Cheese or something to clear their head. I mean, I'm serious.
The best thing for them is to go on the road right now. I mean, they go
to Dave and Buster's, something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's great for them to go on the road, honestly, because they have to get out of that building where the pressure is just too intense. Columbus, they'll go and they'll to relax.
Russ, are you going to pick every bad chain restaurant out there?
Yes.
Getting onto the Flyers Penguin series for a bit too.
Is that a series? Are you sure?
It's so weird because it feels like it could be, but at times it isn't, right? So there's and and Elliott is what Elliott is, and it's obvious now that they just have that they just don't like Peter Mrazek.
They have less faith in Mrazek than they do in Elliott, but they don't have great faith in either, probably.
Right, and if Neuwirth could get back, but I mean, are we that far away from seeing Tokarski play goal? It's like
we are because the coach doesn't know him. That's the problem.
No, I know. I feel like that, but at this point, he might be their best option.
I know he could be.
He's had playoff success in the past. He's shown some things, but anyway,
that account in Chicago is available.
But some things really stand out. The way Hackstall's using his lines in the series has kind of baffled me to a degree. First of all, the fact that Couturier is averaging 25 minutes a game in a series that hasn't gone to overtime is just insane. I mean, that is
insane.
You can't have he's played 40 seconds less than Provorov, who's a defenseman who plays more than almost any other defenseman in the league. So you're looking at that just is insane. And then the fact is that you've got this defense on the Penguins that is very vulnerable, and Columbus will exploit them in next round. It's going to be a tough. If those two teams meet, it's going to be a tough one to pick.
Here's the thing, though, Eck.
Yeah.
It's only vulnerable to guys with speed,
right? And
they still don't have the speed lineup in there. Nolan Patrick showed another gear, then they were vulnerable. You know, like Jordan Wheel's on the bench.
I
he needs to play.
Travis Konechny's playing 12 minutes. Raffles,
he needed to be on the top line in the third period. He did.
Raffles playing 12 minutes. You know, you look through this.
Matt Reed's one of their best players. What does that say?
Right. Again, and you know who might really help in this series? And Oscar Lindblom playing 10 minutes. You know.
Well, that's because he was getting a little bit destroyed on the second line, so they moved him down to the fourth line, and then they just stopped playing the fourth line. That's what happened there.
But the most successful player that the Flyers had in the 4 games in the regular season against the Penguins was Jordan Wheel, and he's not playing.
Yeah, I know. Yep. He does have that burst of speed. They sort of need it. I actually wrote about Travis Sanheim today because he was one of the few players that was really good and is actually really good at home all the time. And he was the fourth most minutes, but he was only like literally 2 minutes behind Gudas and 2 minutes behind Manning. Brandon Manning should never see the ice again. Robert Hagg should be in there. Like Manning had a horrible game, just a horrible game.
He's a -3 in the series. I mean, Giroux's a -4 in the series. So the fact that Giroux is -4, that's just crazy. I mean, Couturier a -3. We are seeing the fact that you're not checking Malkin. It's obvious, that Malkin is running around like doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah,
that's really tough.
But Hackstall did admit something, Eck. He admitted that after it was 3-0, he should have called the timeout.
I heard that.
And a lot of us talked about that in between periods because, like, Flyers fans are used to, like, Laviolette, who used to know exactly when to call a timeout. Yeah. And Hackstall doesn't really know when to call a timeout. And I think maybe he finally learned.
I think he learned something.
In fact, I was saying that they should pull Elliott at that point, not because Elliott was responsible, but because I think they needed a change of momentum. And then that fourth goal came right on top of it. And then I think pretty much any hope of Philadelphia getting back into that game was done. I'll tell you one thing, though, Russ. It's like I look at Pittsburgh's defense, and I think it's vulnerable enough that a team like Tampa with a ton of speed or Boston or Toronto could take advantage of it. Jamie Alexiak is about as mobile as a fence post. So
here's the thing, though. I agree with you there, but Justin Schultz and Brian Dumoulin and these guys play really well, and they aren't the biggest names, and we tend to just sort of say, well, they're not a great defense, but they do a pretty good job of getting the puck to the right guys. The problem is the Penguins have a good puck possession going, and they can win the puck possession game. They know how to do it. That is a big thing.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm just saying there are vulnerabilities there, and it's sort of like Andre Schuster playing for Tampa Bay. There's one or two guys you can take advantage of, and that could be the difference in the series going forward. So we'll see how.
Murray's the coolest customer in these playoffs. Yeah. Like he really is. Like literally only gave like 1 or 2 word answers yesterday. He's in the locker room and he didn't even act like they won a game. Like he acted like it was a pickup game and he was just getting his gear and he was getting ready to leave. And that's how he is every time in the Stanley Cup and otherwise. He is literally, I mean, I've never seen a guy this even keel ever.
Oh, he's so crazy. He's so crazy. He's so even. I mean, and that's a huge thing. I mean, to me, even though Elliott's obviously played well in game 2. I mean, he didn't play great in game 2. He didn't
play great. I think, it's funny, like when Giroux made that little remark for the doubters and because people were doubting Elliott, I still didn't feel like he had a great game. He just faced a lot of shots.
And the fact is, like, the first 2 shots went off the post in the game too. I mean, and if either of those go in, we're talking about a totally different situation, right? So, and then
this game exploited Elliott a little bit on the lateral movement, and then on that fourth goal, he was just like, I don't know what he was doing. He was leaning forward when he shouldn't have been. It was a little crazy.
I thought the devastating goal was the first goal because the Flyers had played so well. They were dominating the game. And then it was a side-to-side. I mean, Crosby knows that if he's going to wrap it around, he's going to beat Elliott. So he's like sitting there. Crosby can't, Elliott can't go side-to-side and catch up to Crosby. It was clear as day.
It crushed the crowd is what it did. I mean, there was momentum there. There was emotion there. And then once that goal happened, especially if it's Crosby because he's so hated in Philadelphia, I think that place was as silent as a church after that goal.
Well, I'll tell you, the Penguins took the drum guy right out of the game. All of a sudden, there was this new drum guy, and he started up at the beginning, and we never heard from him again.
I had a lot of fans.
Can we take the drum?
About the drum guy to me, I was getting a lot of things about the clean because a drum guy is like that's something that like that Iceberg does in Pittsburgh, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we take the drum guy and the horn guy from Pittsburgh and throw them in Lake Ontario with a rock tied around their leg?
He's largely untested.
That, and you know what the other thing is this. People still to this day are upset that sometime during the like 1990s, early 2000s, the Flyers chant changed from "Let's go Flyers" dun, 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 to the Rangers chant,
right?
Let's go Flyers, that kind of thing. And it was just, and that when that changed, people were all pissed off too. So it's funny. I don't know why I'm the person that they come to with these things, but I'm like for some reason in charge of the chants. I get so many texts the second this happens.
Russ, it's funny. It's funny because I'm annoyed by the horn. I didn't hear the drum, but I'm sure that would annoy me. But the Rangers, the little song that they have after their goal, that doesn't annoy me. I don't know. It's like certain things.
I know. It is weird how what annoys us and what doesn't. But the other thing about that game, just crowd wise, was they were dead, and even when it was like 4-1 and Sanheim got his goal. Like there was just like a very faint "Let's go Flyers." Like it was just like it literally lasted for like 10 seconds and nobody joined in. So I think the fans are starting to lose a little of their gusto, and I think that is a problem.
You've been to plenty of Flyers games. I've been to Flyers games my whole life. I had tickets growing up. I will tell you flat out that Flyers fans are not in the game when their goalie is shaky. That's the bottom line. The Flyers fans.
So what you're saying?
They've seen that history.
Yeah, that changes everything. And then when the Flyers have a goalie that's playing really well, it's a totally different world.
So what you're saying is they haven't been into a game in 31 years.
No,
they have moments. They have moments like where they have great goaltending, and then they haven't had consistent goaltending in that amount of time.
But Murray really did take the crowd out of it and probably the heart out of the Flyers because he made that save on Patrick. Then late in the first period, he made that save on Sanheim where it was a 2-on-1, and I think after that the Flyers really had nothing left. Like second and third periods were just bad for them.
I mean, they were. The staggering thing that he's 8-1 after a playoff loss, Matt Murray, in his career is just that number is just that's all you have to say. Like if you're going to do that, you're going to win Stanley Cups. I mean,
there's not much to talk about this series, but we'll just transition quickly to New Jersey because Schneider is going to play Game 3 after they played Kincaid the first two in Tampa.
Wait, before we talk about the game, just one sec. There was something that New Jersey did yesterday that is a tactic that a lot of teams do. What do you do when your team is going bad? You do something positive. So they signed Joey Anderson. They put a picture out on Twitter, and they made it a big deal. We just signed Joey Anderson to an ELC, and they were trying to change the narrative. They were because they saw that their fan base is angry.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. But I mean, Tampa is so far is living up to the expectations that we thought before they took that swoon in March and April. When after the deadline, I think they were sort of dopey. But McDonough is playing really well, and the only thing that's a concern for the Lightning is Stamkos really has not been a factor, and they can get by New Jersey without him. But if they come up against Boston or Toronto in the second round, they're going to need Stamkos to produce. And right now, I don't know what level he is, but he doesn't look like the Stamkos of old.
I think we really need to touch on the Vegas series because this is like that is the story again, and it's shocking. I mean, I thought the Vegas could win the series, but I did not. I would never in a million years have thought they could have swept the series. I mean, and they still might not. I mean,
but like these games are so close, Eck. Like it's just they could go either way.
They are the best games in the playoffs. I mean, and it's the crazy thing about it is they've been the best games in the playoffs. The double overtime game was phenomenal. Last night, at one point during the third period, was some of the best hockey we've seen all year by far. I mean, it's
been the best goaltending, really, other than Murray.
You've got two of the best, maybe the two best goalies in the playoffs right now. Actually, Matt Murray could put up there too, and but these two have been just so good. I mean, it's crazy, and you feel so bad for for both of them because one of them is going to lose. It's just like each of them is just they're doing incredible jobs.
The story of this series, Zach, is obviously Quick and Fleury have been fantastic, and you can't blame Quick for the losses. But I think the story here is that LA's offense is absent without leave. You haven't seen, Paul Ledoux scores the only goal in Game 2. Kopitar really hasn't gotten on track. Doughty was absent from game 2. I mean, it's like this team has more offense than this, but Vegas is effectively shutting them down because I think they have the speed advantage, and because they do, they're suffocating the Canes.
I do kind of wonder, though, if LA could win the next game 5-2 or 6-1 or something crazy like that. Would we start to see an effect act like we did with Philly and Boston, where Philly came back in the series? I kind of wonder. I mean, it's just because there's been no adversity for the Knights because of their play whatsoever, but we don't really know if they can play from behind. We have no idea.
Right, Russ. One thing about that. Remember, in that game 4. Bruins Flyers, Krejci got hurt. When Krejci got hurt, that turned the series. If Marc-Andre Fleury got hurt and you had to go to Malcolm Subban, then I think it would turn the series. But right now, I don't see anything that turns it in the direction of LA unless
I'm trying desperately to get up 2-0 because the Knights have not been in that position. They just haven't.
Yeah. What do they do if you can you shut them down? I mean, can you just play shut down? What are your thoughts, Peter?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What are your thoughts on Nashville? I'm sorry, on this series, Vegas.
Well, I mean, before when we talked about this, I thought LA was the antidote to what was going to take Vegas down.
Yeah,
and frankly, Vegas just hasn't changed. They're just the same thing, and they're just doing more of what they've done. And it's not that. And the logic I felt behind saying LA had a chance was, playoff experience, that sort of that intangible aspect that exists. But throw that out the window. Vegas has come in, they just keep doing what they do. They attack, they close gaps at a speed that's frightening to any other NHL team, and they just keep attacking and doing their thing, and over and over and over again. It's not like there are relentless waves of force, but they never change.
You know what the Kings aren't doing, and they have some guys that could do it. You almost need to go into the crease and trip Fleury and get into his head a little bit. He is that guy where if you do some of those things early in the game, you can throw him off. Yep. We've seen it happen in Flyer series and other series, and they've tried none of that.
And that's really surprising because, John Stevens there, you would think, you really would think, I mean, he's part of that Flyers team that did that to Fleury.
Yes.
He knows that whole thing. And
right. And that's sort of part and parcel with what Dustin Brown has done in the past. He always got in the kitchen of, I remember that series against Vancouver in 2012, when he got underneath Burrows and Luongo and everybody else. He was just a pain in the ass. But he's not doing that in this series, and nobody is. And I'm starting to get sort of like a Florida Panthers vibe from the Golden Knights, because remember that Panther team, they had Van Beesbrook, they played a strap down defensive style, and it got them to the Stanley Cup final. And if they keep doing
special ed was a good player.
Ed Jovanovski was 18 and destroying
he was killing everything that moved. I know.
I mean, that is one of the most underlooked runs by an 18-year-old. I think he turned 19 by then. In NHL history.
He had an unbelievable series against Eric Lindros in that. Remember that? He took out Lindros, and that was almost thought it was impossible.
Yeah.
Lindros was
the shutdown pairing of Jovanovski and Rhett Warner.
Yeah. The crazy thing about them is that they find just incredible timing on their goals, and they have a way of the confidence that they're playing, how much they believe in Fleury. It's just that's the thing that they're just riding. They're riding that wave that their defense isn't skitterish at all there, because they know if they make a mistake, Fleury's going to have their back. There's no
Go
real
with the old jerseys. Get rid of these jerseys. That's what they need.
Yeah, I mean it's really fascinating to me. The confidence with the confidence that the Knights are showing in front of Fleury is unbelievable. The other series that we can touch on quickly, that I think, obviously the Nashville, I think Colorado's played better than I thought they would in this series, and they still are down 2-0. The Predators are just
it's getting more headlines though. The Nashville play or Carrie Underwood's face. I'm just tired of hearing
her legs. Yeah, I know. Carrie Underwood's legs now are the new thing too. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
They're not bad. But
Columbus. I mean, that's. I mean, if you have anything on that series, but to me, we talked a little bit about Columbus and Washington, which is going to be.
Did. But you know what? You got to be a little worried about Nashville because the Avalanche have been getting to them a little bit, and they've been running up the score a little bit against them, and they were losing at one point. And I think everybody, me included, thought they would sort of breeze through the Avalanche, and they're still winning, at a good clip here.
It's had to come from behind in every game, and if the Avalanche were getting goaltending, it would be different.
Yeah, I think they're playing down to their opposition. I mean, not to insult Colorado because they did make the playoffs, but Bernier has been a godsend to the Predators because he can't stop a beach ball sometimes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes he makes a save, but sometimes he just.
This would be like a close series.
Very good series.
Yeah.
And finally, the other thing, I mean, that we have to mention is is it Ryan Miller time in Anaheim? Like, to me, this is a crazy.
I don't know. I saw Gibson play well the other night. I don't think it's him at all. I don't.
No. I mean, I read a piece by Lisa Dillman on NHL.com, and she's saying that Gibson basically is the only thing that's been good for the.
Yeah, he made some amazing stops that last game. For what I could stay awake for, he did.
What they need, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get it, is they need Cam Fowler back because they're not generating a ton of offense from the blue line. And honestly, Jones has played well. They're getting goal scoring out of Evander Kane. Everything has gone right for San Jose through the first two games, and not much has gone right for the Ducks.
If you remember, I did bring up Jones because he is largely overlooked, but I still think because they don't have Fowler and because they traded Vatanen, we may have finally reached the level of depth that Anaheim can't recover from, and I didn't really count on that because you don't count on Cam Fowler being out,
Yeah.
Right, but they're gonna get Larson in the next year or two, so they'll have more extra defensemen to trade off.
It's the Southern California 0-5 in the Southern California teams.
Wow.
But you think about that, that's pretty crazy.
Interesting. When you think about it collectively, that's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, both those teams, are really just and talking to somebody today, they were joking around. They were a Ducks fan. They're like, and I said, oh, at least you're not losing to LA. And they're like, no, it's way worse to lose to San Jose if you're a Ducks fan. That's what they said. They said,
really?
They said that, there's still there's a little, at least there's no it's like a Southern California, Northern California thing. Like they just, LA, they all kind of, all the Ducks fans were once Kings fans. And they're like, they kind of get it and whatever. But now it's like,
Don't you remember, Russ? If it's San Francisco Giants versus LA Dodgers, people get murdered in the parking lot.
Yeah, sure, but that's an old-time baseball thing that goes back to the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants.
This happened a couple of years ago.
What have I seen on this series? Like 15 tweets? Like it's not like even trending on Twitter. Come on.
No,
because everybody's asleep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, when the Knights and Kings start at 10:30 and go to double overtime, that's not easy for an East Coaster. Oh my gosh, it's just crazy. And tonight,
I've fallen asleep on the couch every night for like a week now.
Yeah, it's a sign of me being old because if there was triple overtime, quadruple overtime, I'm up. I don't care how. And then this year, it's like I woke up sitting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and found out that that Vegas had won in overtime.
You know what the part of the problem is, though? Mentally, I know I could back it up on my DVR. Like in the old days, you couldn't, right?
Right.
Back then you couldn't. I know. I still have my rituals. I make popcorn before the first overtime. I make hot tea before the second overtime. I do my thing to keep myself going, and I haven't missed overtime yet. But although he did fall asleep last night in the third period of the Knights game, but it was 3-1 already.
And in triple overtime, he injects Take a Boost into his game.
That way, and all bets are off.
5-hour energy.
So now you have to do whatever you can. But all right. So what do we think now? Tonight's games, obviously Toronto is in a must-win situation.
Yeah, and what I'm worried about in this instance is Boston is playing with house money. They're up 2-0. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling they're going to come out like they did in Game 1 and try to bull rush the Leafs. The Leafs are probably going to be a little bit tight. If they can, it's going to sort of be the opposite of the opposite of being at home, being on the road. At home, it's going to be them having to weather the first 10 minutes, and if they're even, then I think they loosen up. But if Boston gets up a goal or two, it's going to be a morgue at the Air Canada Center. It's they might even start to be some booing because everybody got their hopes up that this team was going to go far, and then this is going to be a big disappointment if they go down 3-0. So, for the Leafs' sake, I hope they need to get the lead and get the crowd behind them.
I think this is going to be a full Marchand. Like I think he could tell that the Leafs are wounded. I think he's going to lick Leo Komarov's face 2 times early. I think he's going to do everything he can.
He'll have to do that. He'll have to do that in the press box, Russ, because Komarov's not going to play.
Let's throw something we haven't talked about into this, because it happened last night in the Winnipeg Minnesota game. Some wildly inconsistent officiating.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now look, and I put it out on Twitter because people are going bonkers on the Winnipeg feed about it. And I said, if you're expecting consistent officiating in the playoffs, I don't know what sport you've been watching for 82 games. It's not going to start being consistent now. So don't accept that it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
Right. That's all you can do. And just keep quiet about it. But when Sherratt got the cross-checking penalty that was identical to the one that had happened to him in the same shift at the offensive end, when he was lying on the ice and no call,
right?
People threw up their hands, but that sort of changes things.
But who did Sherratt cross-check?
And if the Leafs can get the Bruins running around a bit and taking some dumb penalties, let the power play go to work and see what happens here, and then there's a possibility, right? Because
we do need to wish, before we forget, a get well soon to whoever that ref was last night that got carted off and had his knee destroyed.
Yeah, dislocated kneecap and torn quadriceps is what happened to him. I can't remember the name, but let me just say this.
They actually went. We've never seen this before. At least I never have, and I've watched a million games. They actually went behind the scenes into the referee room and showed him being put into a chair. We've never seen the referee room on television ever.
Yeah. The one thing with Toronto and Boston is I think that, I mean, yes, they have to weather that early storm, but the officiating has not been in favor of the Leafs. I know, and this is not sour grapes because Boston has deserved to win the first two games. But in Game 2, in the first period, Mitch Marner gets forearm shivered by Tim Schaller, and Ron Hainsey comes to his defense. It's the most punch-worthy double minor for roughing I've ever seen. But the thing is that the Leafs can't kill a penalty right now. And 11 seconds after Hainsey takes the second roughing penalty, they score and it's 4-0, and the game is over with. So I mean, the Leafs have to improve penalty killing wise, but they also have to stand up to the Bruins. And I don't know if they have the lineup to be able to do that.
Now, Mike, here's a big question. Yesterday at the Flyers game, a lot of players and other people from the city, from other teams, were wishing the Flyers well. By the way, the Philly Fanatic did not wish the Flyers well, and I felt like that was a slight. I'm wondering, did any of the Blue Jays wish the Leafs well?
No, they're too busy trying to patch the hole in their roof.
or the Raptors, I mean, they're doing really good. Yeah, to me, what I think you said is Peter. I've noticed about the officiating, and I've noticed this a couple playoff series, but I've never really talked about it before. A couple years in the playoffs in a row now, is that officiating definitely lends itself to help superstars in the playoffs. Like that's when you see it more than anything. If you trip or hook somebody who is like a star player, or you are going to go off. Like that is something, and it goes on all teams, all directions. And it's why you see some of the stars, like I've seen Giroux draw penalties in the series. That really weren't penalties. Crosby and Malkin have drawn penalties. And it's just obvious that, refs look at star players differently in the playoffs. It feels like it's maybe it's a subconscious thing, but you definitely have to stay away from doing anything to a star player or else you're in trouble. There's no question about it. It really, and it
makes sense.
Seems to be like that in the playoffs. Now, of the games tonight, are we going to see 4-3-0? Are we going to see 4-3-0 series after tonight? What are our thoughts?
No.
Okay, how many? Are we going to see 2?
I think Nashville's going to win.
Nashville, so we might see 1, and then the other 3 series get a win.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Toronto will show up. I don't know whether it'll be enough, but I think they'll show up. I think they'll score more than a couple goals, and we'll see where it goes. I think New Jersey has a chance to beat Tampa with Schneider in goal, even though Schneider has not played well down the stretch. I have a feeling they're going to win one of those games in Jersey, and I'll say tonight.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think Toronto's the only one that's going to win tonight. Is my opinion. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say.
That means they're doomed to lose.
No, I don't doom them.
No. You don't
People
doom
are
them.
already betting against
That
you.
means
Eck.
New
I'm
Jersey
getting
will
that.
win because I never get New Jersey right. Okay, like I never get New Jersey right. So if I say
No,
New Jersey's going to lose tonight, New Jersey will win.
Telling you.
No, Eck, you don't doom them. I just remember the text I got in 2013 when they were up 4-1 in Game 7.
Yeah, well, that's true. I will never text you.
Don't pay the mortgage. Go straight to Bodog. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, it'll always be fun, that's for sure. And tomorrow we'll be back talking about. What do we have? 3 games tomorrow night. The Flyers Penguins have an extra day off in here for some reason.
we can't figure out why. Like the Sixers are playing tonight. I haven't heard what's going on Tuesday that's precipitated a Wednesday game, but
I think this is the Wednesday night rivalry thing. That's my theory.
That's what I think. I think NBC is literally holding it back for that. I think you're right.
I think
maybe somebody can lay their hands on Michael Neuvirth's groin to be able to get it to completely.
I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Somebody did point out that Michael Neuvirth looks a lot like the guy from the kid from Pokemon, which is so true.
I don't know Pokemon. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you'll someone out there will know what I'm talking about. Got to catch them all. Anyway, all right. So
I don't have to catch them all.
I'll miss that one.
Everyone for enjoy the night tonight. Lots of stuff going on. We'll get into some rumors again tomorrow. Check out my blog today. I did talk a little bit about Pacioretty, and I definitely feel. Just check it out because I feel as if it's getting more and more likely we're going to see him as a Panther in the very near future, from what I've been told. So that seems like it's heading that way. Remember, without the buzz is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.